Welcome everyone to Train Tuesday. I am your host Jim Wiggin with Athearn Trains and so glad to be here with you once again. If you're watching us live, thank you. Appreciate your taking a little bit of your time this evening to hang out with me and talk trains. If you're catching us on YouTube and you like the content that you see, please do me and my team a favor. Go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. That way you're notified every time a new video like this drops into our channel. I've got a little bit of everything for you tonight. I've got some HO scale, I've got some N scale, I've got some refined HO scale and some refined N scale as well. I've got a little bit of everything. Yeah, I've got a lot of ground to cover. We're going to talk boxcars, gondolas, and old Ford pickup trucks. All of that is to follow. Let's do what we always do. Let's see who's joining me on the live feed. I see Dave Reynolds is here, Alco Steam, Ron, Jason, Michael, DG Model Works is in the house, Jeff, Donnie, Jason, Jackie, Dan, and Thomas, just to name a few. So thank you for joining me. The voice is still somewhat creaky, but I do have my herbal tea and honey here. We will muddle along and get through it. Let's do one more round of shout outs and we will dive deep into tonight's train goodness. I see Jay Good, Paul, Joseph, Ben, UP8518, Thomas, Charles, and Jamie, just to name a few. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to talk Athearn tonight, and we're going to start with the Athearn HO scale gondolas. Now these versatile cars, there's so much that can be said about them. They're perfect for your layout, your module operations, or just adding to a train to run. But these versatile cars are going to have some interesting updates, and we'll talk about those in a moment. Now, the one that you see on your screen right now, this Frisco car, is actually available right now. It is part number ATH 8185. That's ATH 8185. If you like this car, you can go ahead and get it from your dealer. These are in stock right now. However, these will not have the same features that we're going to talk about in a little bit. For now, though, we're going to talk about what's available for pre-order. And you only have until Friday the 23rd, so not a lot of time here. So let's get with it and show you what we've got for this run. We're going to start in the 1980s with CSX. CSX reporting marks, of course, are CSXT, and this is car number 481645. Now these cars in HO scale and N scale, we'll talk about the N scale ones in a moment, so N scale guys, hold on. These are going to be sold as singles as well as a 3-pack. There are 2 singles and there's a 3-pack. Now, there is no repeating road numbers, so you can get all 5 cars and not have to worry about a duplicating road number. On top of the one that you see here on your screen, we're also going to offer car number 481816 as a single. And then the 3-car pack will include car numbers 481720, 481782, 481974. Guys wanting something a little bit newer than the 1980s, the Herzog car is next. This is 1990s era. This car here, 3902, its reporting marks, by the way, is HZGX. There's another single that we're offering. Its number is 3907, and its 3-pack will include car numbers 3914, 3920, and 3922. If you're still wanting something newer than that, something more modern, well, you're in luck. SMBC Rail Services that you see here, that is a 2010 era car. Their reporting marks are SOXX, and this is car number 526029. We're also going to offer car number 526100 And the 3-pack will include 3 cars. They'll be numbered 526050, 526099, and 526102. So you've got a little bit of everything there, 80s, 90s, 2010. Let's go back to you guys that are modeling in the mid-1970s. We're going to start in 1975 at the top there with the Boston and Maine. Boston and Maine got these cars approximately in August of 1975. This is car number 9070. We're also going to offer car number 9072. The 3-pack will include 9073, 9075, and 9077. These cars will be great if you want to anticipate the Guilford merger that will happen just down the road. Next is the Gondola Connection. This is a late 1990s era car. This is car number 3120. Reporting marks for Gondola Connection is CRLE. And we're going to also offer the other single, and that car number is 3178. The 3-pack will include 3556, 3607, and 3692. And then finally, for you guys that are modeling the 2000s, we have Trinity Industry Leasing. Their reporting marks are TILX. This car number is 35142. We're going to also offer car number 35157, and the 3-pack will include 35228, 35333, and 53400. So those are the roads that we're going to offer with these HO scale cars. Now, you probably heard me say earlier that there are some updates on these cars, and you are correct. Since the last run, there have been some refinements. Now, I'm only using the car that you see on your screen just to kind of give you an idea. This is the car. However, keep in mind the car that you see on your screen does not have those upgrades yet. Now, let me tell you about those upgrades because they're pretty exciting. These will now feature refined end sheet molded on details. The rivet and bolt details are much more refined, much more improved. This is an important one. Corrected wire grab iron placements. They weren't quite right the first time. Now they're actually prototypically correct. These will also feature new top cord details, new jack reinforcement pad details, and new coupler cut level mounting details. That's all brand new. So these cars have been retooled. They're not brand new, but a lot of work has been going into the molds. Of course, they're going to operate on a minimum radius of 18 inches, so it doesn't matter if you run on a modular type layout or a regular home layout. The smallest layouts can take advantage of these cars. Now, prices on these for the individuals, $34.99, and for the 3-pack, $84.99. Now, before you get all upset, that is MSRP. That's not the actual selling price that you're probably going to get at your hobby shop. If you do, I encourage you might want to shop around. MSRP is basically us as a manufacturer saying, this is our suggested retail price. Your Athearn dealer has the freedom to sell them at the price that he feels best fit. So again, we get a lot of comments in the comment section pretty much on a daily basis about how high these prices are. Well, keep in mind, these are MSRP. So talk to your dealer and then decide. All right. So N-Scale guys, if you're still there, I have some news for you as well. You guys get gondolas too. And in fact, you're going to get the same roads, the same arrows, and the same amount of cars to purchase as the HO scale versions. So when we go through the roads, I'm not going to go through those road numbers again. I don't think my voice can take it. But you can always go to athearn.com and see for yourself that we're not going to have any duplicating road numbers. But N-Scale guys, pay attention. We've got some great stuff here for you. And the HO guys aren't the only ones that got some upgrades. N-Scale guys, you've got some upgrades as well. Let's talk about, though, what we're offering. And oh, by the way, that Rock Island gondola. If you really like it, I encourage you to go to your hobby shop now. We're completely sold out. They did sell quick. So you may want to talk to your dealer if you really like that Rock Island gondola. They were available a couple of days ago, but from our distribution center, they're completely sold out. All right. So N scale guys, CSX, you get CSX as well. If you're a modeler of the 1980s and beyond, these are definitely will work for you. They're available in 2 singles as well as 1 3-cart pack. Next, if you model the 1990s, you've got the Herzog, again, 2 singles as well as a 3-pack. Finally, if you're an N scale guy that's more into the modern era, 2010s, we have the SMBC Rail Services. Now you also get the option of 1975 on up with the Boston to Maine and late 1990s era gondola connection. And if you're more of a 2000s era modeler, we have the Trinity Industries leasing. Now, like I said, I do have some updates for these cars as well, so let's get to those. And again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to show you that Rock Island car, but keep in mind the new versions that we're showing tonight are going to have updates that this car does not have. You're going to see improved molded on detail and fidelity. What does that mean basically? As time goes on, molds tend to wear out, details get soft. These have all been updated, so all those details will be nice and sharp looking. Here's something that's really important for me as an N-scale modeler. Take a look in the picture of those stirrups. Maybe some folks wouldn't be having too much of a problem with those, but for me, they look a little thick. Well, fortunately, the Athearn team thought the same thing. These are now going to be fine scale stirrups. So they're going to look a lot better than what you see here. They're not going to look quite as toyish. There's also going to be additional nut and bolt details that have been added to it. So a lot of more scale authenticity has been put into these models. Something else for you guys that may not be aware of with Athearn N-scale, this will have body-mounted McHenry knuckle couplers and, of course, metal wheel sets. Now, these will work on code 80. They'll work on code 55, and I can say they work on code 40 just fine. The trucks are not a plastic pin, but they are actually a screw-in truck, so they track a little bit better. And minimum radius on these is 9 3/4. So if you're got the smallest T-Track module all the way up to the biggest Fremo N module, or you just have a small layout in your apartment, these will work fine on that as long as you got a 9 3/4 radius. Now, MSRP on these, $31.99 individually, $79.99 on the 3-pack. And again, that's MSRP. So talk to your dealer. So there you have it. Some gondolas. These are going to be great additions for both HO and N-scale guys. Don't forget, you've got till Friday, the 23rd. I'm going to probably stick around after our last presentation to see what questions you may have, but we're going to just keep on rolling. And the next thing we're going to talk about is Ford pickup trucks. So these little models have been extremely successful for Athearn. In fact, the one that you see on your screen now is actually available. If you're into this late 90s, early 2000s era custom paint job, and you want to add this to your 90s, 2000s era layout or module, the item number that you need to have for your dealer is ATH 26466. Again, that's ATH 26466. These are obviously a 1950s truck, but in this next release that we're going to talk about, we're going to be all over the place. We're going to have trucks that match their era for the 50s. We've got a few in the 60s. We've even got one that's part of our new Prime for Grime on this truck that could be qualified for anywhere between the 80s to now. So let's get started on the trucks that we're going to offer. So starting up first, 1955 era Santa Fe. Pretty classic. Staying within that era, 1955, is that beautiful jade green New York Central. And then staying again, pretty much in 1955, you've got the Ford Motor Corporation version. So these are good for your layout, whether you're going to use them as railroad utility vehicles, or in this case with the Ford Motor Company, you could use it for your distribution chain. I know a lot of guys are getting into modeling the automotive industry, which is certainly a very fascinating aspect of railroading. And of course, Ford had a very large setup at one time. This would be perfect for that. Coming up next, we have Bethlehem Steel. These trucks here are pretty much for your industries. And if your industry's set in the 50s, 60s, maybe even early 70s, you can certainly add these trucks to your fleet. Next one is Mountain Lumber. This would be perfect for any small town lumber company that's set in the late 50s all the way into the early 70s. And then last but not least, Liberty Feed. Think about it. If you're doing the transition era and you've got those really cool uh, wooden grain elevators, these are perfect with that. And then our last two, these are part of our Prime for Grime. So the first one, 1980s era, under restoration. This is the first time we've done this. You can see this truck has got some patina on it, as well as a shiny fender, and it looks like a new tailgate. How many of us have not seen a restoration process like this, maybe at a friend's house or a relative's house? Um, these are perfect for your suburban areas on your layout. You can certainly add this to the driveway, probably to the chagrin of the other neighbors, homeowners association. But regardless, you can put that in there. And this is a great Prime for Grime that we just came out with and should be pretty popular. The other one, we're going to go back to 1960s, but we see a work truck that's had a hard life. It's been used pretty hard. You can see it's got a little bit of scratches and dings to it. This is the Lehigh Navigation Coal Sales Company, and this would be appropriate for 1960s into the 1970s. Now, these little trucks have a lot of detail. Really nice looking models. You can see here our version, and like I said, this one is in stock. Now, these are Ford licensed models, so they are officially authorized and licensed by the Ford Motor Company, factory assembled. All of the details that you see are already applied, clear window glazing, and of course, rubber tires. Now, MSRP on the Prime for Grime is $37.99, and the individual non-Prime for Grime are $32.99. Again, that's MSRP. So when you talk to your dealer, I think you'll find these prices for these pickups in HO scale are in line with a lot of the other manufacturers that you'll find out there. So there you have, there's some trucks for you to add to your collection if you're an HO guy. N scale guys, I've got one more thing for you. And we're going to talk waffles next. And not breakfast waffles, but waffle boxcars. Now, Mr. Wagner, I did see your comments and questions before the show, so I wanted to address at least one of those. Now, unfortunately, I can't address all of them, mainly due to the limitations of our time and possibly my voice. But I did want to address one, and you had some questions on this particular boxcar, namely on the ends and the particular boxcar door. That being said, I just want to let you guys know that Athearn is not the Genesis line. Athearn is going to be as prototypical as we can get it, but there are going to be some details that are not exactly 100% correct. And we're going to have that case. I'll show you a Guilford car in a little bit that in real life had a plug door. And in this one, because of our tooling, it has the sliding door. We still want to offer these, however, because we know that there are some folks out there that are not into the high fidelity as much as the Genesis customer. That being said, we do have a rather extensive line in Genesis now for N-scale guys. So if you're an N-scale modeler that likes all those details and prototypical accuracy, stay tuned because we've got some great Genesis releases in N-scale coming throughout this year. But let's talk about what we're offering this month for pre-order. So here you can see we've got 3 roads, and these are all different eras. We're going to start in 1975 with Burlington Northern. Now, Burlington Northern and all the other roads that I'm going to talk about here tonight are available on not just 1, but 3 different road numbers. So you can add all 3 of these Burlington Northern cars and not have to worry about duplicating road numbers. So again, every road that you see here, there's 3 different road numbers for that same car. If you want something a little bit more modern, 2006 era, we have CSX. Here's a cool car from 1974. This is Illinois Terminal. And again, that's available in 3 different road numbers. Coming up next, we're going to kind of go on the eastern seaboard, kind of up in the New York area to start with the Delaware and Hudson. Delaware and Hudson car is a 1974 era. Obviously would see these throughout the 1980s. 3 different road numbers available for this car. The Seaboard system, this is a really cool car. This is 1983 on up. And then finally, you've got Maine Central, or what I call Maine Central GTI. This is 1984 plus. Now this is the car I was talking about earlier. It typically had a plug door. Our tooling doesn't have that plug door, but again, we wanted to offer these cars for you because we do know that there are some folks out there that are not as highly acute to the prototype details as other modelers. Remember that Athearn tries to make models for everybody. That's why we have Roundhouse, Athearn, and Genesis. Now, some of the features on these cars. And these are really good. I encourage you, if you're in one of the modular disciplines, whether it be T-Track, N-Track, Primo N, consider these cars. These make great cars because they are relatively inexpensive. They've got great colors. They actually have some really nice printing on these cars. I've got a few of these from my N-Track days. And where we're offering them in 3 different road numbers per road, you can really build a nice fleet very quickly. Now these 2 also have the screw-on mounted trucks. We just find that that's a better way to allow the car to track, and it also allows a little bit of adjustability as well. These will operate on code 80 rail, code 55, all of those rails, you'll have no issues. So if you're modeling one of the, Fremo typically does code 55. N-Track still is stuck on code 80, and T-Track, since you're using the Kato track, you'll have no issue with these at all. Like I was saying too, these come with a razor sharp printing and painting. And even though we've had to take a few liberties on some of the details, we've still tried to make the painting and the placement of everything as accurate as possible. And again, even if you get the smallest T-Track module or the smallest apartment dwelling N-scale layout, if you've got a 9 3/4 curve, you'll have no problem running these cars. Price on these MSRP is $26.99. Again, that's MSRP $26.99. So contact your dealer for pricing. They will have a great deal for you. And remember, you've only got a few days. They're going real quick. next Friday. So there you have it. You're going to want to get those pre-orders in and talk to your dealer soon. I'll stick around for a few questions and see what kind of questions you have. Yeah, we hear you guys. I was talking to somebody at Amherst a couple of weeks ago, and they said, "Well, you're an N-scale guy, so why don't we have N-scale at Athearn?" Well, I don't dictate what gets made. At the end of the day, really, none of us really dictate what gets made. We try to listen to what you folks want. Now, if we get more requests for N-scale, and we have been getting more requests, we are listening, and we're going to be offering new N-scale items this year, all new tooling. So, we're trying. Let's see. There's a couple of good ones here. Oh, there it is. Any news on metal couplers or the Wellcar weighted repair kit? No news on the couplers. I did talk to John briefly about it at Amherst, and he's been overwhelmed with a lot of projects on his plate right now. I know he's really deep in the RX 500 project. He's really deep in the concession stand cabooses. He did show me a sample of the light setup for the sign, and you guys aren't going to be disappointed. It's going to be really cool. But no, for no updates on the coupler right now, but we are working on it. The second question, I believe what you're referring to is that pin that rides on the bogie of the intermodal cars. In the past, all the way back to the blue box days, that was plastic and it would break real easily. And we've upgraded them to metal. We just shot pictures of the next release of those in our studio yesterday, and I noticed the metal was on there. So we should be seeing something soon on those kits. I'm not saying this will never happen, but actually, some of our N scale modeling is based on the old MDC, which was kind of like a blue box kit. If you're my age or older, you probably remember the old model die casting kits that came in a small jewel case, like most N scale cars come in now. And it was a simple kit. It was a die cast frame and a couple of trucks and some couplers and some pins, and you put it together. In fact, I've got quite a few of those still. Would we ever go back to those? I don't think so, but it could happen. I'm not going to say never because it could happen. Yes, as far as I know, they are. I know I'm anxiously awaiting, and I know a certain man at Soundtracks is waiting for his GP15. Let's see. Seeing some more coupler questions. Yeah, Stephen, it sounds like you've got the same historical references and possibly biases as I on the Boston and Maine Central. By the way, I do read comments before the show. I do read a lot of forums. I go into a lot of the forums and I read stuff, and oh yeah, I see stuff about the show. I see things about Athearn and things like that. So I try to keep current with what everybody's talking about, and so do the guys at Athearn. All the product development team are very active on forums. Social media, I'll be honest, personally, I'm not very, I'm not, I'm not on social media at all, really. I do it for work. So when you do something for work, you tend not to do it too much for personal reasons. So if you sent me a friend request, it's no offense. It's 9 times out of 10, I'm looking to find a recipe somebody posted 6 years ago. I don't really get on there too much. Here's a good one. We're really pushing for that. I had a lot of folks asking me at Amherst, and I get it. I'm a modeler. I'm just as impatient for my GP15s as I am, a lot of folks are for the Surfliners. And let's face it, they're going to be cool. We really, really, really want to get them to you. You just got to keep in mind that there's a lot of production involved, and so we're trying to get those out about that time. I know a lot of you guys are like, man, it's been 2 years, but we're working on it. Yeah, a lot of guys. Got Dan here. You are welcome. I say it a lot. If there's something that you want produced, just go to our Athearn product suggestion email. It's Athearn-product suggestions at athearn.com, and shoot us an email. Now, that's not a guarantee that you're going to get that model and it's going to be the very next announcement, but at least gives you a shot. Putting it in comments, it's not really going to help. If you tell me at a show, I'm going to share your enthusiasm. Unfortunately, though, with everything going on, I'm probably going to forget. So your best bet is just to use that email. And yeah, we do listen. That's one of the items that we actually had a lot of requests for. CSX modelers have been extremely vocal lately of more, early CSX. So that's why you're seeing that. So Pete has got a great question, and I'm thinking I'm going to use it as a spring box for an answer. I just recently purchased from a hobby store a 1996 Athearn, I believe you mean blue box locomotive for $10 Canadian. That's pretty good. Is there a way I can buy parts? So Pete, I'm going to answer your question and maybe some other questions out there, and a kind of a rhetorical answer. Blue box was a different era of Athearn, really. And 1996, to me, it wasn't that long ago. There may be people watching this program right now that weren't even born yet. That was a while ago. We just simply don't have a parts supply that big for parts that go back that far. Typically, we have parts that will supply for warranty, defective, spare parts for a locomotive up to, but not including, about 3 years. Think about for a second how many releases we come out with every month. Compound that by a year, compound that by another year. and think of all the parts of all of those different SKUs and just try to fathom the size of the warehouse it would take to hold all those parts. Now, I know, yes, they're small parts, but they still take up a lot of room. It's kind of the same position I am in if I have a part that I need for my Ford Falcon. I can't simply go down to the Ford dealership and ask for, um, an alternator for my Ford Falcon. I'm going to have to go to a different place to get those parts. And there are fortunately places out there now for someone like you. You can look up Arnie's Trains. He's out of California. He has a lot of blue box parts. So that locomotive is old enough now that it almost warrants going to the aftermarket parts, if you will. And you may be rolling your eyes at me and saying, well, duh, it's not a 60s era Falcon, it's a 1996. Well, I have a 1996 as well, and same thing. I'd have to go to a parts supplier for my truck, not typically the Ford dealership. It's kind of the same thing. I hope that makes sense, and I hope that doesn't come across condescending. But I just wanted to kind of relay that to you, that with all the releases that we do, we can pretty much keep parts up to about 3 years. And then we have to make room for the next batch. But thank you for your question. I'm glad you did ask it. Let's see. I'm going to go back a little bit. I thought I saw some questions. Benjamin, I'm going to put you up here. This gentleman has been asking patiently for a while. Is there anyone else that would be interested in the 50-foot high side gondola coal rail cars in Central Illinois Public Service? I can't believe Benjamin's the only one, so help a guy out. Send that into product suggestions. Um, and again, Benjamin can't be the only one that wants those. Oh, Pete, that's cool. His 1996 Athearn locomotive was painted up in the Athearn paint scheme. That's cool. Let's see. Train Jack, any new Amtrak units coming in the next few weeks? Not in the next few weeks. Throughout the year, though. Thanks, Jim, and thank you for the CA11s. I can't take credit for that. That was, again, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that came about because of customers like you emailing us saying, "Can you please do this model?" And it was overwhelming. And like I said, we're doing those in Genesis HO, and we're doing them in Genesis N scale. So I know a lot of N scale guys were disappointed when we announced the HO scale versions, but keep the faith. The N scale ones are coming. We're just going to announce them a little bit later. No, it's not okay. It's still the thing I had from last week. So, yeah. Here's a good one. Who didn't have the Sanford and Son theme song? on their mind when you saw the, I'll admit it. I did. We'd really like to do that, but there's going to be some copyright issues. However, I will let you in on a little secret. In a few weeks, we're going to have a locomotive that was seen on television. So there you go. A little sneak peek into what's going on. Jesse says, a little disappointed that Atherton didn't surprise us at Amherst and make an announcement. I know. Honestly, I was too, but timing is everything. We didn't really have anything lined up for it, but we have been working on something. We've got some releases coming up, and we're not always going to do it at a show either. It's kind of gotten routine with a lot of manufacturers that every time a show pops up, they've got a new announcement. We've got some new announcements, but we're going to go about it a different way. All right, I'm going to take one or two more questions, and then I'm going to let you guys get back to your layout. Going back to the blue box stuff, yes, that is correct. You can still get those. You can still get those. But some of the parts, like the handrails, remember the metal handrails that came in a little yellow, and the stanchions came in a little yellow envelope. We don't have those, or some of the truck detail parts. We don't have those anymore. Like I said, Arnie's is got a huge collection of stuff. Brad, I have seen your comments. You Ditchlight guys, man, this is why I modeled the 70s. You Ditchlights guys are like, I once had a guy, just side note, I once a guy at a show demand we put Ditchlights on a locomotive from the 1950s. It was like a GP7 for like, I don't remember what road, Pennsylvania or something. And I'm like, that, unless it's at a railroad museum in current time, it's not going to have ditch lights. But anyways, I digress. Brad, I will get that forwarded to product development. I will fully admit I don't know that much about CP Rail and those eras to either confirm or deny they only had ditch lights on the front or the front and the rear. All I can tell you is the ones that Janek's team picked out, those eras, from what they found, they only had the front ditch lights. If you can help us out otherwise, shoot us an email to Athearn-product suggestions. Because like I said, the comment will get lost. I'll see it. I'll forget about it after the next meeting. But shoot us an email. And if we can fix it, we will. We might not be able to. I don't know. But I wanted to at least get your comment out there so you knew you weren't just commenting and nobody was listening. Any products on the water right now? Yeah, AC4400s. Disclaimer, I am not an HS scale modeler. Second disclaimer, I don't model anything past 1983, 85. I'm getting an AC4400. They're cool. Really cool locomotive. Yeah, no, I am too. I am too. I just don't want to do it at N scale. The GP38-2s that we announced for this February, keep in mind that the Canadian style classification lights, those function. If you get the Tsunami 2 version, Those function. That's the first time we've ever offered that. I'm pretty excited about that. That's probably why I'll add one to my order, just because I'm like Randall. I'm a sucker for those lighting effects. Any new legendary livery locomotives coming down the pike? Huh. Okay, I will answer that as maybe, because we are going to offer something next month that A, we've had requests for. B, it's not quite a legendary livery, but it could be. And I'm just going to leave it at that. You guys are going to have to figure it out in a couple of weeks. All right, well, with that, I'm going to let you guys get back to some modeling. By next week, hopefully this voice will be back to normal. Until that time, I will see you next Tuesday at the same time. I want everyone out there to be happy, be healthy, be safe, do some good modeling, and above all, high greens. Good night, everyone.